CJ Flyer back with the fire in another YouTube video. Today teaching you the best method to rebuild small schools in College Football 27 Dynasty Mode post-patch. When the game first released, it was very easy to obtain 4-star and 3-star high school recruits as a small school, and doing so with zero NIL. However, after the latest updates, that approach does not work anymore as EA has decreased the number of 4-star high school recruits available every season, and has also significantly increased the aggressiveness in the CPU in recruiting. In fact, there are going to be instances where you are battling a Power 4 conference school for some 2-star high school recruits. Okay, so after selecting your school, make sure that you select the recruiter coach archetype for your head coach. This is going to ensure that we can maximize the amount of scouting that we are able to do, as well as get increased starting interest from high school recruits and transfer portal players. Now, during the first preseason, we want to focus our scouting on athlete recruits, as those players typically have higher starting speed and most small schools have low speed players on their rosters. Regarding support staff, we are going to ignore this for the time being, as we have very limited dynasty points. Now, as we progress through the regular season, we are going to be mindful of our AD expectations. If there's any of them that we can meet, we are going to go ahead and do our best to meet those in order to increase the amount of dynasty points that we have available. As for the number of high school recruits that we are going to target during this first season, we are only going to focus on maybe 3 or 4 3-star recruits, preferably gem level players. And then otherwise, we are going to strictly target 2-star high school recruits. Specifically 2-star recruits that have a high playing time grade, as that would imply that they can be inserted into the rotation immediately starting their freshman year. Now, advancing to conference championship week, if you have coordinators that have dynasty points on their contract or have multiple years remaining, go ahead and fire them at this time. And then entering the bowl season, we are going to hire coordinators that have 0 dynasty points expected on their contract and are recruiters so that we can stack abilities with them. Now, entering the end of season recap for the end of season 1, we can now set next season's roster NIL. And most of these players aren't going to be worth keeping around, so we can just go ahead and put most of them down to 0 NIL. Now, advancing from the end of season recap to players leaving, we are going to utilize a strategy that I demonstrated in the top 3 transfer portal secrets in College Football 27 Dynasty video, in which we are going to do scouting for free utilizing 0 recruiting hours, looking for players at specific positions that we would like to target in the transfer portal. And the players that we intend to target are going to be starting level talents. We want to look specifically for high 70s and low 80s overall players at various positions that are going to be entering their senior year. This includes players such as Austin Mack from the University of Alabama, and the Patrick Mahomes fanboy himself from the University of Oregon. Now, of course, your dynasty might have different players available during players leaving, but these are just some examples of some of the talent that is going to be obtainable as a small school in the transfer portal. Now, the reason we want to target upperclassmen in the transfer portal that are in the high 70s, low 80s overall range is because of the way that the star ratings work for transfer portal players in College Football 27. In College Football 26, the way that the star ratings worked in the transfer portal was that if you had a higher star rating, you were a higher overall player. And so you were able to find 3-star freshman transfers that were previously 5-star high school recruits with a star or elite dev. And you could swoop in under the radar and get these recruits for little to no recruiting hours. However, in College Football 27, that formula has changed, and now the star rating is based on a player's max potential. So now those same 5-star high school recruits with star or elite dev that were previously 3-star transfers are now showing up as 5-star transfers, and many of the top schools are competing to obtain them. And so while all the CPU schools go ahead and battle over these high 70 overall, low 80 overall freshman transfers, as a small school, you can easily sign many 2-star and 3-star transfer players that are going into their senior year or even their junior year that are anywhere from 70s overall to mid 80s. And again, that is because their max potential is nowhere close to a 90 overall, whereas some of these previously 5-star high school recruits that are now 4 or 5-star transfer recruits have that max potential of being 90 plus overall. And since the CPU schools were very aggressive in signing high school recruits during the regular season, they do not have many, if any, scholarships remaining to offer to these transfer players. And just to show some more examples, we've got London Montgomery at running back from the University of Florida here as a 2-star transfer recruit. We also have Malachi Coleman here, a 2-star wide receiver from the University of Wisconsin with low to mid 90 speed. And so with the Dynasty points that have been saved up for the first season, those can be put towards a couple of the 3-star transfer players. And beyond that, there are many 3-star transfers and 2-star transfer portal recruits that you can sign with 0 NIL. Now for the purpose of this video, I only scouted for a few select position groups. I did not focus on offensive or defensive linemen or linebackers. And even in doing that, we still managed to increase our teams overall to a 71, and we have multiple 80+ overall players on this roster going into the second season. Realistically, if you do your due diligence, you should be able to easily get a roster that is a mid-70s overall roster. And depending on which conference your school is in, you should have an easy time winning a conference championship and potentially sneaking into the college football playoff. Now for the second season, you'd follow the same blueprint, the same method as the first season. You're not going to utilize any Dynasty points for high school recruiting, for support staff, or for equipment. You are going to save those Dynasty points for the transfer portal recruiting. Additionally, be sure to attempt to complete any and all AD expectations that you can in order to obtain more Dynasty points. And if you're exceptional at on-field gameplay, you can go ahead starting in the second season to schedule out-of-conference ranked opponents in an attempt to further boost your school grades that influence your Dynasty points. Going into the transfer portal at the end of Season 2, you can see we obtained even more Dynasty points and are pursuing more transfer portal players that are requesting NIL to be attached to their scholarships. These include exceptional talents like Pringle Jr. and Talon Carter. And again, depending on what conference you're in, you're going to be going into Season 3 with a high 70s, low 80s overall roster, going up against other schools that are likely going to be in the high 50s or low 60s overall. During the preseason before Season 3, this is when you would finally start to consider support staff, as at this point you should have enough Dynasty points to be able to consider purchasing the strength and conditioning staff for either the bronze or silver level. This support staff requires an upfront payment of Dynasty points in order for a bigger payout during the end of season recap, in which you can then use those Dynasty points during the transfer portal window. Now at this point, I would expect by Season 3 your team prestige is also hovering around 2 stars, if not higher, assuming that your starting team prestige was at 0 stars. And as you continue this cycle and as you win more games, you'll finally accumulate more Dynasty points, and you can start to consider going after better recruits during high school recruiting in the regular season, as well as some better transfer portal players during the offseason. Now, when I first recorded this video, it ended up being about 30 minutes long, and I felt like it was a little bit too detailed. And I also respect your guys' time, and I don't want to make videos too terribly long in order for you to actually get back to playing the game. So with that being said, if you do have any further questions regarding this method or need anything else explained, please leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to help. Of course, since this method requires heavy utilization of the transfer portal, if you would like to learn more about some of the secrets in obtaining the best talent in the portal, click the video on your left. And if you want to learn more regarding the Dynasty Blueprint timeline, go ahead and click the video on your right.